Hello, my little caribou, and welcome to my May wrap-up. In May, I have read 22 books with over 4,400 pages and a little over 100 hours of audiobook, with an average rating on my reading of 4.36, and we will break all of this down. For a short viewer, if you want to see the full video, go to my YouTube channel. So as you can see over here, I got a roughly half and half print to audio ratio here, 55 to 45. Of course, it's partially because I have listened to more audiobook than the average this month, and also because I've read a lot of shorter books like the series on the unfortunate events, so that influences my stat, and that's why also my number of books is that high this month. I don't think it's going to be that high for a lot of months. It was so high that I surpassed my expectation for the year. I thought I would read roughly 70 books this year, and I am at 77 with this month, and I also passed my hourly goal of 300 with 372. We'll talk about this here because I don't really know how to where to put it, but in my year I have really 1/3 ratio of absolutely everything. I have read 1/3 printed book, 1/3 audiobook, and 1/3 digital ebook. Usually I counted ebook as physical book. It's not print, but it's still physical. Although I usually read them in ebook format, I read one of them in print, but usually I just do the distinction between physical and audio. Just that Storygraph is making a distinction between ebook, print, and audio. So here's a stat if you're interested in that. And for my mood pie, well, you can guess it's pretty dark, adventurous, mystery, stuff like that, because, well, if you have followed a bit of my Instagram, you see that I've continued series of unfortunate events, which is basically that dark, mysterious, adventurous stories. And I also listen to a lot of Patrick Sénécal, a French author from Quebec, which is a horror book. So yeah, adventurous, mysterious, dark, still common theme between those two, not series, because Patrick and Seneca is not really a series. But yeah, it's still pretty dark books, so that influenced my charts to be more on that side. If we are looking at a more detailed breakdown of what I read, of course, horror, thriller, middle grade, mystery, young adult is pretty high because of a series of unfortunate event and Patrick Sénécal, series of unfortunate event being middle grade and young adult, and Patrick Sénécal being horror, thriller, mystery, a little bit of fantasy, but I don't think it's considered fantasy. But as we go down this chart, we can see that I've read a couple mangas, two because I have read the omnibus of One Piece, so I read technically six volume, but since it's omnibus, it's 3 in 1. Dystopian I have read less this month, but it's always there because I really love dystopian stories. If we're looking at my fiction non-fiction ratio, I'm 86% fiction and 14% non-fiction, so pretty much read fiction, and I prefer dystopia and horror. That's basically the two styles that I read more, but recently, I have tried to expand more the style that I read. Going down this chart, we also see that I read one LGBTQIA+ book. That's Trans History. If you follow my Instagram, I will talk about that later. As for the size of the book or audiobook that I'm reading, for the book, I mostly read shorter book because of a series of unfortunate events, which are about 250 pages. But I read a couple of longer books. One of the longest being the omnibus of One Piece with over 600 pages, if I remember correctly. And the last book of the year that I read, I will talk about that also. In audiobook format, I mostly read medium length format because the Patrick Sénécal are in the 12-14 hour range usually, in that ballpark. So that's why it's so high, because I listened to basically all the Patrick Sénécal, and I will get back to that because I've not liked them out, even if it's one of my favorite authors. And of course, no surprise there, I've made tags for the author that I read most, because the monthly reading stat of Storygraph, we don't see the most read author. It kind of makes sense because a lot of the time you don't read a lot of books for the same author, and if you read one book from an author, you're not really interested in seeing that in your stat. So you only see the stat from how much book you read from a particular author in the yearly stat. And I'm not really interested about that, because the problem with that is, well, exactly that. They show you every single author that you read, and even if you read only one book of that author, it will show up in the stat. And unless I have read a couple books of that author, I'm not really interested in knowing that I've read from them, unless I want to read again from another book from them. But usually I'm more interested in which are the top contender, if you will. I created tags about authors that I read a lot of, and those show up in the monthly review, so that's great. As you can see, of course, the author that I read the most this month is Patrick Seneca, because like I said, I listened to not all of them, but most of them, well, the ones that are available in audiobooks anyway. And I've read 7 of them, and of course, for a series of Unfortunate Events, Lemony Snicket, I've read 5 this month, probably 4 because I've counted an audiobook in there. I try to listen to the audiobook kind of at the same time that I'm reading the book, because they are really high quality also, but I usually don't count them as a reading, since I'm consuming them at the same time with the book. I'm lending them from the library, so if I'm not able to have it at the same time and I have to listen to it not at the same time, then I count it as a separate read. And of course, I've put Eishito Oda here because it's the author of One Piece, and I expect that he will be pretty high this year. Probably never gonna go past the author from Tokyo Ghoul, because in this one I read in omnibus, so that means that I have 3 in 1, and the Tokyo Ghoul I've read by chapter on the Jump app, so very hard to compare. And of course, it would not be as high, even if I read technically more volume, because there is 3 in 1. As for my page and reading per day during the month, I would not go over every single day, of course, but I will say that I had a very good month. I usually don't read or listen that much, but I started this month to listen to a lot of audiobook while doing the dishes or cooking or something like this, so that's why it's that high in that regard. But I started reading as well in the evening, so that's why I've upped the page count on that month. And if we are looking toward the end of the month, we see that minutes of audiobook fall to 0 for a couple of days, and this is because I listen to a lot of video essay on YouTube. So probably in that period, what I thought was, I have a lot of audiobook logged in, so I will look at a couple of the essay video that I still have to listen to. In terms of language, you may have saw that I read in mostly 2 languages, because my native language is French and I speak English. I have read about 60% English, 63% English, 36% French. Most of those, of course, are Patrick Seneca, except one. But we're going to go back on that eventually. Next, continuing forward with the star rating of the month, to see a bit of how I love my rating is, you can see that it's all over the place, because, well, probably that I'm becoming more and more critical of the book that I read. Bear in mind that the way that I give my notation, if I know the book at all over 1, it's because I kind of went into it. Because if I'm not into a book, I just don't finish it. So even if we look at that and we see that I have a book that I've noted 2 out of 5, well, that doesn't mean it's not good. It means that it doesn't measure up as well with the other book in this to the author. And this one is kind of an older book, one of his early books of Patrick Seneca, as you can see here. So I will talk about that in a dedicated video. Basically, the problem with that is now it's a very basic story. You can see the plot coming from a miles away, but I have trouble imagining what it would be back then, because I'm reading it like 25 years, I think, after it was written. So probably wouldn't have noted that low if I was to read it at the time of its release. And that's why I'm not sure about this one, because today it's predictable. But back then, I'm not sure it was. Just a note on the manga. I have not followed my own rule about manga. Basically, my rule is I cannot rate a manga 5 out of 5. I will only rate it 4 or 4.5 if it's a really good volume, because I don't want to crowd the 5-star part of the review. And I've decided that because when I was reading Tokyo Ghoul, I was really enjoying it, and I realized that I would have something like every single book that I read would be 5-star. So I decided to lower the score of the manga just to keep them out of the 5-star range. If you see something like this, 4.5, 4.75, it's basically mean that it's a 5-star. It's just that I didn't want to put 5 stars to uncrowd the 5-star rating. I don't know if it's a good way to go about that, but it's my way of going about that. You can always give me your opinion and tell me in the comment what you are doing, and maybe that will help me change my ways or something. I don't know. I'm still trying to find a really good way to go about it, and I'm not really sure I have. So as you can see here, this is one of the other reasons why I really love Storygraph. It's all those charts that you're seeing from the beginning and in the other video are all from Storygraph. You log your reading and listening, and then they give you all those pie chart, and you can have even more and have custom one if you pay for the plus. I don't know how much I think it's $4 a month or something like this. It's an independent app, and they really try to do it really well. They listen when you say concerned, or if you see an error, a version of a book or whatever, you send a message and they answer. So, for example, I was scanning a book, and by the barcode, I saw that the edition that they had there didn't have the right number of pages. So I sent a message, hey, this book actually have something like 20 pages more, and you can maybe you say, hey, it's just 20 pages, it's not that important. If every book I read have an average of 10 pages less than they actually have, it kind of make a good chunk of a difference on my objective. That's why I'm really picky about the accurate number of pages or minutes for the audiobook. As you can see, I was mainly reading the first book that I finished this year in April, and I finished it in the beginning of the month of May. Same thing for the audiobook. For the most part, I've kept it inside the month. I don't like carryover when you have books that split to another month, but I accept it. It's just the end of the year. I really don't like if I roll over a book, and I will try to finish everything on the 31 of December because of that. In that case, I couldn't finish all the books that I was reading in time to don't have a rollover, but picked up a lot of reading, as you can see in the later day of the month, because I wanted to finish the book that I was reading before the end of the month. But I still had an unfortunate event in a Doom that I didn't finish in May. And it's because I read them at specific time. Unfortunate event is the series that I only read while I'm in bed before getting to sleep. And sometimes I'm unable to read a lot because I'm very tired, and I read a couple pages and then I'm so drowsy that I just go to sleep. A bit of a similar situation for Dune, in the sense that I only listen in when I'm in the car going to work. During that week, a situation happened where most of my classes were online because I'm a teacher. So most of my classes were online at in that week. So I've listened less to my audiobook. That's why it's longer for me to finish it. So until next time for another book, ciao!